Arizona football gets the win, gets the game of Jedd Fisch's career, let's be honest, and of recent memory. Let's get started here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we've got a lot to get to this show, as always. But you know what? This is even a little bit better than normal because Arizona football has, I don't want to say vindicated not Tommy Lloyd, but Jedd Fisch. But right now, this is a team coming off one of the best wins of the season right now. Right now, we're at the Right now, we are at the point where sorry, again, I'm having some technical issues. We're at the point now with Arizona where we are basically, this is an offense, as we've talked about, that is going to be able to hang with absolutely anybody. And you've seen that against Washington. You've seen that against Washington. You've seen that against UCLA. You've seen that against USC. There's a lot of impressive stuff going on right here. And let's start with the offense, and then we're going to get to the defense because there is a lot to really like about what the defense has been able to do right now. But first, Jayden de Laura gets beat up a lot. I get that. You know, he does some maddening things out there, especially when he runs around and takes some really bad sacks. But let's be honest here. What he is able to do in those situations is absolutely magical. There's a little bit of a Russell Wilson type vibe about him, if you will, where he runs around. You kind of wonder what exactly is he doing out there. And then, he chucks it downfield for a 40-yard gain. And that's kind of what he does. Now, again, he's going to take some 13, 14-yard sacks where you're like, dude, just get rid of the ball. But you saw in that last drive against UCLA where you know what? He needed to get the ball in the end zone. He had to scramble around, and he hit T-Mac in the end zone. And and that was kind of that right there. And that's what's exciting about what he's able to do. Now, I think that, Jayden de Laura, obviously, as long as he's here, Arizona's privileged to have him. Now, when it comes to the when it comes to the skill guys, this was a big game for Mr. Michael Wiley. Michael Wiley put together a huge performance here, and he looked really good in the process of doing it. Mainly because when you watch Michael Wiley, that's one thing that's, that he's solid. You know, nobody's ever watched Michael Wiley and said, you know what, he can't play. You just kind of wonder about what that next level is for him. Now, this was maybe the best game of his career. He was absolutely fantastic out there. This was a big time win, and Michael Wiley was a big part of it. He wasn't just kind of a placeholder. He was a game changer out there. And that's where, if you're watching this team, you're like, man, he can really do some things. He can really do some things out there. And again, when you watch him, you know that he can be back for another year. He's been a trooper. You know, he came in under Kevin Sumlin, and right now he is, he's the running back that Jedd Fisch obviously trusts the most out there. And, there's really no other way around it. Then you look at the other backs. DJ Williams has a real next level type quality to him. I'd love to see him get a little bit more burn out there, as the kids might say. But that might not just be on the agenda right now. Either way, though, Jedd Fisch certainly knows what he's doing. But I think what is also fascinating right now is where Arizona is at the wide receiver spot, because each week, game in and game out, Arizona continues to impress. Arizona continues at that position to be in a position where you're able to, you're basically at a position right now where you can dominate games, and Arizona has been able to dominate games with that triumvirate of McMillan, of Dorian Singer, and of Jacob Cowing. Now, there's a good chance that Jacob Cowing could head off to the NFL next year. I don't think that anybody would be surprised by that, but I think that Arizona is more than capable of replacing him at this point, because you're going to have players like a a Kevin Green and AJ Jones, guys that have a lot of position flexibility out there for you, who are going to be able to make some real improvements right here. Now, where are we at though? At the offensive line. Now, the offensive line performed very, very well against UCLA, very well. And I think that, a lot of that, you got to give credit, you got to give kudos to Wendell Moe, and inserting him into the lineup. That was a big time move. And again, he was obviously underrated. It always cracks me up though, when you find a guy who's a little bit underrated and you're like, maybe it's because you're from a small school. No, it wasn't that he was from a small school. He's from Long Beach Poly. That's where, but he's been inserted into that interior line next to Josh Baker and Jonas Sabanea. I think it's fair to say that right now that interior line for the U of A is going to be very, very good for the foreseeable future. Heck, if you can get Jordan Morgan back for another year and just get a competent replacement for Peyton Fears, you could have a really good offensive line. And quite frankly, you could have this is going to be a team that I think is going to be issues for teams offensively, because there's just a lot to like about them. There's a lot to like about what they can do on the offensive side, and it goes across the board right there. Now, let's look at the defensive side of the ball, because again, that is also something that you watch what they were able to do, and it's been, to put it mildly, it's been very impressive. Basically what happened is that Jedd Fisch said, we're going to start playing younger players now. We're going to start putting younger guys out there, and he has done that. And in a big way, he's going to he said, all right, we're going to put in Ugalele. We're going to put in Kangaika. We're going to put in Deuce Davis, Deuce Lane on that along that defensive line, and it has worked. Again, you watch Uiagalelei with the sack, tackle for loss, Deuce Davis in there as well with the tackle for loss. A lot of really good stuff has come from that. Love seeing Sterling Lane play more as well. That's a nice little core right there. And I think Jedd Fisch made the correct decision in saying, all right, we're going to play the young guys now. Again, we're not taking Jalen Harris out. Jalen Harris, who by the way had a great game, and we're certainly not taking Hunter Echols out. Keep in mind, Hunter Echols has probably been Arizona's best defensive player, with the exception of Christian Roland Wallace, I'm assuming. But right now, you've got to be incredibly impressed by the youth movement that's going on with these young fellows out there. Now, the other thing too that you also got to be very impressed by is what Jacob Manu has been able to do. Remember, Jacob Manu was kind of the throw-in, for lack of a better term, into that. I mean, not for the U of A perspective, but most people looked at him as a throw-in, because you've already brought in, McMillan, you already brought in Fafita, you already brought in Kean Burnett, and Jacob Manu was certainly that distant fourth, because all those other guys were 4 or high 3-star guys, or, in the case of Fafita, somebody that was very well known either way. This has been a little bit of a different setup though, in that you could make the case that outside of, not make the case. You can make the case that outside of McMillan, Manu has probably been your best freshman right there. He's become a tackle machine. Every time you look in the box score, it's 11 tackles, it's 12 tackles, it's 10 tackles, it's a couple for loss, it's a pass deflection. There are some guys out there that are just playmakers. He is the epitome of one of those guys that's just a playmaker right there. And I think that, we're kind of at the stage too where you watch him and you wonder how good is he going to be able to be. He's going to be, and I think that, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. And there's really, when you watch it, you watch him and you're like, man, it's a good thing that he's the height that he is, because, he probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't. But again, if you're Arizona, you absolutely love to have him. You absolutely love to have him on there. And, quite frankly, it's it was a very, very good recruiting coup for the Wildcats. And that is one thing, that you got to like about it with this squad, is that Jedd Fisch clearly knows how to recruit. He also knows how to evaluate players, because some of these guys that we're talking about were not highly rated guys by any means. Wendell Moe was not highly rated, but he kind of came to them at the perfect time. But it's going to be, you're going to have to find a few more linebackers there, because with the exception of Manu, that position is tough. Quite frankly, Jerry Roberts tries hard, not very good. You also look at the player like, guys like Solomon, Malik Reed. We're never able to really get on there. So again, you've got to be able to find another guy that can really kind of flank Manu right there. And then you look at the secondary, and again, it's more of that next level evaluation skills. Christian Roland Wallace is a really good player. I'm not really breaking any news there that Christian Roland Wallace can really play. I don't know that he's an NFL player. Again, he could be. I think he's got that potential to be, but I also don't know that he's going to be that guy. Again, he could be, but I don't know that that's the case. I'm not sure how fast he is, and he definitely gets some curious penalties as well. But then you look at Ephesians Prysock. He was a 4-star kid. He is. He's going to be a problem. You can just tell by watching him. You can tell by what Jedd Fisch says about him that there's a lot to like there. And I think he's going to be a starter here sooner than later. That's I think that's to put it mildly. And then again, another guy that that's getting some real run right here, Tacario Davis. You watch Tacario Davis, and you watch, and that's one thing that he's been able to, he looks like a guy that probably should have been a little bit more highly rated. Comes out of Long Beach, but unlike so many, he didn't play at Pauley, he played at Millikan. He's about 6'2", 6'3", and he had a good pass deflection, a nice little pass deflection last game. He's getting a lot of burn. He's a guy that I think with a summer, in the weight room, this is going to be a player that is going to be able to cause some real problems for opposing offenses. Love those two in the secondary. And Trayden Stukes came up with a big play as well. If he's your third corner, I'm more than okay with that one as well. Looking at the safeties, it's a little bit more of a mixed bag. Again, Christian Young just kind of not that good. Again, nothing personal against Christian Young. He just, he can't really cover, and teams certainly go after him. Jackson Turner is certainly better in that regard. He's not great, but he's got some potential for sure. Now, then you look at Gunnar Maldonado. Gunnar Maldonado actually had maybe his best game of his career here, but I think that's a guy that you can also upgrade as well. But the young players on the defense, though, have really stepped up. These guys all appear to be players that can have some real impacts going into the future. And it's an exciting time right there. It's a very impressive situation right now where we're at. Now, going to take a quick break. we're going to take a quick little break, but first, I want to tell you about BetOnline. The BetOnline Sportsbook is where it's at. Everybody knows somebody that has used BetOnline, and there's a reason, because it works, and it's fun, and it's easy. I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody say, yeah, I'd like to hop on, but, it looks confusing, or I don't really know where it's at. That's a little bit of an issue. Not with BetOnline. BetOnline can get you the best odds in game, post game, live game, you name it, they've got it. BetOnline Sportsbook. Check it out. Again, I liked the over all year on Arizona with the 2.5 wins. You could have gotten some really good money in the BetOnline Sportsbook. Check it out. BetOnline Sportsbook. We will be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got even more to get to right now, and I think one thing that is very interesting is where Arizona is going forward. Now, you've got Washington State and ASU. Those are both winnable games. First of all, it's crazy to think about, but can you imagine if Arizona was to win this and you're going into the year, or you're leaving the year, possibly getting into a bowl game? That would be a really, really nice thing, a really nice feather, I think, in everybody's cap right there. But again, you watch Washington State. That's a little bit of a revenge game for Jayden de Laura, as we know. But the one thing about it, though, is that you watch him and you know that he's gonna, he ripped Arizona apart last year. Washington State's got Cameron Ward. Jayden de Laura has been a super, super impressive upgrade for Arizona. But, going forward, though, you're going to have to see exactly where Arizona stands. But I think that Arizona can win both of these games. Now, I said before the year, if Arizona can get to 5 wins, that is a massive, massive improvement. You can get to 5 wins. That is you go from 1 win to 4 wins. And Arizona's squarely in that situation right now where you could probably get to that level right there. And if you can get to that level, then you're pretty much where you want to be right now. Now, let's take a quick little break. We're going to preview the ASU game and Washington State, because both of these teams are kind of in a little bit of a different situation. But first, SimpliSafe. All right, SimpliSafe. You want peace of mind? SimpliSafe is here for you. The great thing about SimpliSafe, too, is that it's in so many different houses, and I can't tell you how many people have said to me, man, whether you live by yourself, you live in a little tougher area, whatever the case may be, when you have SimpliSafe, it's almost like you've got someone there watching your back at the time, because you do have somebody there watching your back at the time. SimpliSafe is absolutely it's used in millions and millions of households. And again, there's a reason. It's because it brings you a peace of mind that you a lot of times generally don't get. And again, SimpliSafe is pretty much where it's at. I do want to tell you, though, the numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen SimpliSafe. So again, customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege. Save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for a interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege to learn more. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. That's very true. All right, come back with us. We'll be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. As you know, it was a massive, massive performance here from your Arizona Wildcats football team. Looking forward to getting back out there. Again, if Arizona can beat Washington State, you're all of a sudden at 5 wins. Then you go into that Territorial Cup looking at possibly getting a bowl game. So again, a lot of Jed Fish has improved this team a ton. It's important to continue to back the A out there. He's done an immensely impressive job right there. And again, he's given everybody the reason to be out there. So again, we'll be back with you. Again, this is we'll be back with you on Wednesday. Again, we're on every single day, as you all know. But as always, Really appreciate you. Keeping it locked on Wildcats. You have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Back the A, and have a safe rest.